Okay, so I've played many video games in my life, right? And besides Minecraft and a few others, if there's one genre that I've enjoyed the most, it's shooters. But here's the problem with some of those FPS games. There are so many FPS games out there that it is hard to keep track of them all. Like, can you even tell what shooter this is? Can you? Boom! It's Rainbow Six. I bet you had no clue. It's always these shooters with the realistic graphics that really have made an impact in the gaming community. While there is a group of FPS games that I genuinely like, there are some shooters that are just horrendous both for gameplay and the price, and sometimes I can't even tell these games apart. There are shooters such as Doom Eternal, Fortnite, Splitgate, Screw It, Phantom Forces. Guys, watch this. That have different ways to stand out and gather an audience, different types of gameplay or graphics to help achieve a new level of uniqueness that have actually gotten really popular. These types of games have ways to make someone say, "Oh, hey, I know that from the hit game Fortnite," or "Hey, I know that gun from Titanfall." Other games would just be your generic real-life shooter copy pasta, and while some of these can be actually pretty fun to play, while some just make me question why I'm still alive right now, they just suck. But imagine this scenario. You're currently 12 years old on a bright summer day, and you've just installed this new game engine that a friend suggested to you called Steam. You try looking for a game that's free and looks fun to play, and after a while of searching, you find something interesting. It's free, looks fun to play, so you download it. And yeah, that's how I met this game. Team Fortress 2 was made in 2007 by Valve Corporation. It was a sequel to the original Team Fortress Classic, which was made by these two college students. How do they do that? The game was also a mod for the earlier first-person shooter called Quake. Tf2 was originally going to be a bit more realistic and military-based shooter like all of the Call of Duties that you see nowadays, but with more teamwork. But they settled on a more cartoonish comic book type art style, like something that you see back in the 90s. Of course, in early development, the characters we know today were different looking then. And even to today, all these characters have different bodies and accessories to make them stand out from each other. All 9 classes can be easily differentiated from each other, unlike some games that have barely any differences between how the characters' bodies are built. But it's not just the way the characters are made. Each one of them has personalities and lores that can be its own videos. I know that seems like a standard thing that any game could have, but with TF2, every character has a complex history and attitude behind them, which makes these characters so recognizable and lovable. You got the Scout, the mean killing machine from Boston that's also kind of an asshole.
Yeah, it's a freaking bat magnet!
The Soldier, the stupid patriotic rocket jumper who doesn't even know his own teammates are from foreign countries.
God bless America!
Pyro, the mysterious being that nobody even knows what gender they are. Demoman, the
Black Scottish Cyclops! They got more
the heavy, big man that literally sleeps with his own gun. Engie, the guy with 11 PhDs but can't make his own sentries sapper-proof. Medic, the guy who lost his medical license and still manages to pull off a heart transplant while his patient is awake the whole time.
Let's go practice medicine.
Sniper, who throws jars of piss at people. And the Spy, the reason I have trust issues right now.
right behind you.
If you look into it, there are nearly no similarities between how each mercenary acts, and even after reading the comics, you could learn even more about them, like how Scout is obsessed with Tom Jones, or how Soldier was roommates with a wizard, and turned said wizard's castle into a raccoon sanctuary. The TF2 comics are some of the strangest and fun things to read, and I'd definitely go check out the dubs of them on YouTube. Just the general fact that TF2 doesn't have a campaign mode makes you realize how they pulled off the lore. Like other games, you'd have a campaign mode, which sometimes would be fun, as sequels were pulled out of their ass. They'd make a campaign, it gets ignored, tries to improve the next game, rinse and repeat. Some of these campaigns were really good for story and gameplay wise. TF2 never had a campaign to give us any backstory or history. Valve just handed these comic books that looked like they were pulled from the 1970s and said, here's the lore, have fun. I mean, I did. The comics books are fun to read. So if you haven't read said comic books yet, I definitely go check them out because the main comic series, Manco No More, goes like this. Saxton Hale loses his job to Gray Man, who also owns a ton of robots. The mercenaries that Saxton hired, even though he doesn't even remember hiring them, all disband. The administrator, the basic overlord of the game, tells her assistant, Miss Pauling, to go find the mercenaries and make them find gold called Australium that can make you young and strong. Kind of sounds like steroids, you know? Steroids. Miss Pauling gets them together, Scout and Spy almost get publicly hanged, and they were best friends forever. Just kidding. Turns out the Team Fortress Classic mercs are now in this timeline, I guess, and they got a better graphics card and now want to kill the Tf2 mercs. Medic is there too. Grandman had hired all of them to get him the Australium because he's basically 1 foot into his grave. They fight for a while, Medic get killed, but then outsmarts the devil himself over a pen to be resurrected. And then they all win. Then the administrator uses the last bit of Australium on Earth to become young and say, let's finish this once and for all. And obviously, I don't think we're ever going to get the 7th comic book because this is probably what the Valve's Last Man Standing looks like. And along with questionable occupations of said mercenaries, you can play with them. You know, the type of play where you'd be waiting for Half-Life 3 while also waiting for someone to mess with your sticky bone. The type of play where you'd be flying around as a soldier and then get assassinated. You get my point, right? Again, I'm not saying that this isn't something a bunch of separate FPS games have, but riddle me this. Why is this game so fun to play? I'm a huge fan of movement shooters. I play Titanfall, Doom Eternal, funny synthwave, Orange Door game. I'm all about it. Tf2 takes the general idea of movement and outs their own wacky ways to move and shoot. Play some stickies here, boom, I'm flying. I have a rocket launcher that can't deal damage, boom, pow. Personally, I believe that Tf2 has the most peculiar assortment of weapons for each class, and heck, there's even strange guns that keep track of your kills. Sydney Sleeper, Rocket Jumper, Loose Cannon, Bonk Energy Drink, now with Isotopes. All of these items give the player a different and unpredictable way to play a shooter, something that not all FPS games have tried to do before. The weapons that are used in these types of games are just repetitive. You couldn't tell much difference between this or that gun. I mean, you could add attachments and maybe some skins, but that's still wouldn't add much fun to it. These guns all function the same. Get some creativeness in that head, devs. You can even use a taunt with a certain weapon to put a bullet in your enemy's head with a handgun or uppercut them with a hand grenade. It was just presence of something different that really gave Tf2 a name. Could you even fit charging someone with a grenade as a club in this version? I don't think so, Valve. The Islander is one of these silly weapons that stuck to me since day one. Now look where I am. Who knew Scottman with large sword was a fun way to play? You could use all these weapons and their difference in ability to create some of the wackiest ways to play, wackiest combos, wackiest headshot, and Valve would give new weapons of their own distinctiveness to mess around with. You couldn't predict what behemoth of a weapon they'd add to this game. That's what was fun. That's what was fun. Was. Let me show you something. I put all these in past tense for a reason. I know that Tf2 is a decade-old game. It's been holding strong for a good while now. Surprisingly enough, I started playing Tf2 in early 2018. Ironically, this would be the turntables of Tf2. It marked the beginning of a new era when Valve would start getting us absolute radio silence when it came to new content. Sure, there were patches and localization of files, but it wasn't the same. All we got was hack crates, for Gaben's sake. Oh wow, speak of the devil, I got a new drop. Let's take a lookie. It's not even Smithmas! Not only that, but Valve hasn't even released their own hats in a few years now. Let me elaborate. Oh gee, oh boy, time to dedicate all my time and effort at working at Valve Corporation to construct this amazing new hat update. Alright, let's see. Oh, look at that one. Looks good. Oh, this one. Oh, looks good on everything. Oh, that can go. Oh, hey, it's another one of those all-class buddy cosmetics everybody loves. This is gonna be perfect. Yeah, that's what it looks like. At least that's what it seemed like it is. All I can say is that the devs these days are just blindly throwing darts at a dartboard that they label with a sticky note, Tf2 Community Workshop tab. Every year you could be getting a new update with tons of new content, new weapons, new hats, and then they realize, hey guys, I have an idea. We can just leave this game to sit back outside and just leave the Manco store to get the money. And so they did, and left the long-awaited heavy update out there too. I'm not even joking at the Manco store part. They charge you $5 for a rocket launcher. It costs 1 cent on the third-party Manco store.
That's not even a joke.
And I know even with these Death Valley updates just to leave new players' wallets looking like Valve's dev headquarters, the population of players is higher than ever now. Even with all these dry updates, there still is hope, but here's the catch. You see, when a game gets popular, there will be all sorts of people roaming around in this community. Take Minecraft, for example, one of the most popular games of all time. You see, many people have good intentions for these games, mods, servers, you name it, while others have rather devious intentions.
Like this, like what is this man doing?
A community can ruin a game. Tf2 is a prime example of this. It's not popular, but that won't stop the horde. You see, some people realize that Valve isn't actually going to fix their game. You still have random crits, broken hit reg that made me quit for like a month, and bots. The only thing that the devs were going to fix was the localization files. I don't even know what that means. And the works of Delphi. So, the AI raided, DDoS, and even straight doxed that one guy. I already made a video about this back when the bot invasion was at its high in 2020. I mean, like, what else to do during quarantine, am I right, guy? Voting? No. Chat? No. Voice chat? No. Rip headphone users. Leaving? Oh, don't worry, we'll do it for you.
So that's when the disconnect button was.
These bots were so repetitive today, I'm surprised they haven't just published an encyclopedia teaching about every single species. But even in this time of disorder and chaos, one large group of people took back the night. I don't know how many times I have to say this, but the community is TF2's prosthetic leg, the pillars of any house next to the ocean, all the energy drinks in my life. This is the only thing that's kept it alive. 3 years since we've had an actual update, things have reached the lowest point content-wise. All we get are the same seasonal events. Luckily, the people declared independence from Valve and made their own things. Creators.tf, Face It, in-game community servers, all of these were created by people who enjoyed playing TF2, but then saw how this game has descended and all the players had left. They noticed all the issues associated with the game and found ways to make it better. Sure, some of these have lost their gig, and maybe there are just some ideas we didn't like, but it was this major movement that brought everyone's attention back to TF2. It was in early 2021 when everyone was talking about the launch of Face It. They fixed bots, random crits, and a whole lot more that annoyed all of us. Face It also worked with Valve in the past, so you knew this was one of those websites that you could trust when you downloaded it. You could also win yourself things just by playing on it. Australians, hats, a fucking car. Creators.tf held its own updates that Valve could have added. They also fixed all the problems that we couldn't stop complaining about. When you hop into the community service section of TF2, you're basically gambling for what type of wacky experience you're gonna get. You can run from zombies or Freddy Fazbear, learn to rocket jump as a scout while getting bombs thrown at you in a randomizer ×10 server. You never knew what you were going to expect unless you just like read the server's name, but it's fun when you're a new player walking into a new community server and then immediately becoming part of its family. You can run and start praying for your life because of the Slender game mode, or even try to fight Saxon Hale and then he breaks your spine or something like that. I'm saying all this in comparison to other games. For example, Overwatch. Overwatch has its own community servers, but it's just a repetitive cycle. Blizzard doesn't allow their players to make something new. They're just like, nope, nuh-uh, we can't take risks for any exploiters. No, we won't. Work with what you have. Valve even released its own animation software for its games, and it's called Source Filmmaker. It's what I'm using to make, well, me, as well as a lot more of my works. But of course, like any Valve game, they made it, toyed around with it for a while, and then left it. The game's content is still stuck in 2012. They haven't fixed any issues both me and a lot of other animators must deal with. But just like Valve games, the community comes in clutch. The community workshop. People can make models and upload them for people to use. I can't count how many times I've used this page to save myself. New cosmetics, weapons, cars, and other stuff are all featured here. Not only that, but they've gone to the game files to help fix hundreds of issues that nobody could ever fix, included free in this package that Valve has kindly delivered to my front door with a sticky note saying F you, because that's how we feel about Valve giving no response to our SOS. It's sick how this game was thrown out like garbage. It never was garbage in the first place, but after all these years of waiting for something to happen with it, it's just stale. It doesn't feel the same way. It doesn't feel like how it did back in 2015 when you'd be running from Erasmus, smashing go-karts into each other, playing around with the new and improved pyro. All the updates are over now, and I don't know if there's any updates coming back. This game has taught me a lot of things. I've become a YouTuber, an animator, and an FPS game lover because of it. It's a masterpiece. Something that's taken the awe and attention from the gaming community for a good while until it just left. But of course, the game may never be over. Valve may be planning something very big. That's probably not true, but at least there is something to look forward to, community-wise, I mean. Some of the best YouTubers and animators have left, but there are tons of new animators I've seen throughout YouTube and Steam that certainly have skill and uniqueness to gain more of an audience. And like, what the hell happened to these guys? Rose dropped 2 bangers and then left. Trust me, this game can't die anytime soon. But if Valve doesn't get their shit together, maybe it'll just be left out and left to rot. I love this game for what it is, and the sheer amount of memories and fun times I've had with random people that I forgot in a week. It's insane. This game is completely unpredictable for what it is. It's a fun, wacky way to play an FPS game, and if you haven't, I'd definitely go try it out. It's free. To me, TF2 is much more than a shooter, and that's why it's the greatest.
Want a break from the
Random crits.
If you tap now to watch a short video, you'll receive 30 minutes of
Crit-free gameplay.
Yes, really. If you tap
People never